Good evening. Good evening, citizens of Indio who are participating in the Indio Sports Park Master Plan. Brooke, you want to give us an intro?
Absolutely. I'm Brooke Berry. I'm the Director of Communications and Marketing, and we're so glad that you're making time for us on this Tuesday evening to give your input into the proposed new sports park in Indio near Jackson Street. Let me introduce some of the players that are here today. You just heard a little bit from Chris Herman, and also he's the principal with the Herman Design Group who's working on this for us. We also have Mike Edgar. He's the Parks and Facilities Project Coordinator for the City of Indio. And sitting back right now, don't think we forgot about you, Jose Estrada, the VP and Project Manager. So we are going to let Chris, I think, take the reins in this show here tonight. And Chris, why don't you tell the folks that are watching at home or on their mobile devices, either here on the City of Indio Facebook page or our newly created Indio Sports Park page, what's in store and why their contributions to events like this are so vital?
It's important because the only way we can make this project happen is if the community is involved from the beginning. And in the next month and a half, there'll be 3 more opportunities after tonight to help design this park and set the direction for what the community really wants. We're going after $8.5 million of grant money that's offered by the state of California. We have a 39-acre site. We've done our first meeting on site. We've identified what the highest, most desired elements for this park site will be. And we're going to go through that tonight. And we're going to do a little bit of overview of where the park's located, what the context of it is, what the corridors of transportation, both bike and vehicular. We're going to look at what those results were from the survey, some more images of what those park facilities could be. And then we're going to dive into a little bit of a site study and show how these elements could be organized in that space. Keep in mind, we have to get this done by the community. And this is only the second of 5 opportunities to provide input. The next meeting is going to be even more exciting because we're going to be on site and hopefully have hands-on moving parts and pieces around on the park site's aerial photograph. We're only trying to give you guys a little direction and a little context of what you can do with your project. So if we start, we got a little aerial view. We ran a drone over the property. It kind of speaks for itself, so I won't say a lot, but if Brooke will get that going, you'll see where our project is located from the air with some pop-ups of different landmarks that most people will be familiar with. So here we go. It's about a minute long, and we'll get back to the slides in a second. I guess we're going to have a little bit of a delay in the video itself. The drone seems to have taken a break. Okay, there we go. So you're looking now east, coming around, that's Avenue 44. And now we're looking south. And we're moving, kind of looking northeast. And now we're taking a flyover from east to west. Now, not all of this vacant land is park site. You'll get a little better understanding of how much of this land is the city-owned property. But as I mentioned, there's 39 acres of property here. And within a 1-mile radius, there's at least 5 residential neighborhoods that can access this park with various ways of transportation, including the CV Link, Interstate 10 connecting to Jackson and Monroe, and then there's Fantasy Springs Casino out there off Golf Center, and then you can see downtown or the Justice Center, and then there's Miles Avenue Park not that far away. So that's a quick aerial view. We'll go on to the next slide, which kind of outlines what we're going to cover tonight. So we're going to go over a little bit more of the regional park overview. We're going to talk about some of the public transit and bicycle lanes that are available. We're going to look at the neighborhoods that this park can influence. And then we're going to hit the meat of it, which is the survey results, the park photos, and the conceptual design work. So if we go first to the regional overview of the park, you'll be seeing a slide that kind of gives you a site context. We did the flyover, but this map indicates in red where the park site's located. Avenue 44 to the north, Market Street borders it to the south. We have a connection to the east at Jackson, and we're not too far away from Monroe. You'll see that the CV link is in a mile radius. You know that the bike trails that surround the property, we'll get into a little bit more detail in the next slide. So this is the bicycle network and the proposed public transit network that comes out of the city's general plan. You can zoom in a little bit more on this and see that you have 3 levels of bike trail, class 2, 3, and a cycle track. And you also have plenty of access on the Sunline Transit corridors that are on Jackson, Monroe, and 44. So we have public transit that can be bringing people to this site, and we have bicycles, and we can walk to the site from adjacent neighborhoods. If we go to the next slide, this is just a little bit more of a blow up of the specific areas around the project. And on the left slide, you'll see the class 4 is kind of a magenta color on Avenue 44. The class 3 is a bike route on Jackson, which is a shared bike lane. And then the class 2 is the blue. And I have a quick study of what those look like in a section view so folks understand what that means. And on the right are the Sunline Transit bus routes on the red lines. On your left, you'll see a class 1 bike lane, which we don't have any immediately adjacent to the project, but that's what CV Link is considered to be. There are no shared vehicles other than those that can maintain a speed of 25 miles an hour at CV Link. So we have bikes, we have pedestrians, and we have multimodal electric vehicles. On the right is another class of bike trail where we have shared lanes. That would be what Jackson Street looks like, class 2 bike lane shared with a car. The next slide indicates the cycle way and the class 3, another shared, but the cycleway is what's on Avenue 44 on the planned route. You can see there's a barrier between the cars and the bikers. So that's intended to be a fairly fast cycle track corridor. Next slide. This gives you an idea of the neighborhoods that are defined in the general plan. And if Brooke just zooms in a little bit more on this area, you'll see that we have names for these neighborhoods that have been identified. We have a downtown. We have the North Indio area. We have the Jackson area, the West Indio area, the Midtown area, a little bit of commercial on each side. And we touch just the corner of the central neighborhoods. So again, this is a community sports park, and there's a lot of community around this property. You go to the next slide. Okay, so here we are. What were the 10 most desired elements for this park as defined by our community? Those are what is shown in the yellow bars. And on the left is the list from top to bottom of the top 10. Shade is a big issue, shade structures. Open space was number 2 for organized sports. Walking paths, very important. Restroom concession, you can't really build a park without a restroom building, but it was identified as the 4th most important component. And then number 5 is public art, which we have plenty of examples in the city of using public art in public spaces. We definitely want to see this on this park. Fitness trails, picnic tables, a community garden, a dog park or a pet-friendly space, and really good access to the internet and Wi-Fi, which, if you're a Pokemon player, is still very important today. So this is another look at the active elements only and what was most important in the needs assessment related to those active elements. And from 1 to 10, and real quickly, we have walking paths, open field space for organized sports, fitness trails, basketball courts, skate park, and then it goes down further to splash pad and baseball, softball, exercise stations, a bike track, tennis courts, pickleball courts, and frisbee golf. So those were the biggest items identified in the needs assessment. And we'll go to the next slide, and we'll start taking a look at some of what these components are. So play equipment comes in a variety of different types and sizes and combinations. And we're going to get into the next workshop, and we're going to put these kinds of images up and allow folks to put a dot on these images for what they like, what they don't like, make notes on those. So each one will have a number, and you'll say, oh, I like this because I want a rock climbing play area with ropes. Shade is over everything. Ground level experiences where we have ADA access, super important. And we're going to show options for those and allow people to access those and provide their input and get new ideas shared with everyone. You can go to the next slide.
So I don't want to interrupt you here, Chris, but we want to keep the people engaged who are participating right now on Facebook, and we are getting a number of comments here too. So without interrupting the flow here, I might throw up a comment or two, and I don't know if you can see them at the end of the screen here, but you mentioned rock climbing as some of that, and we do have a comment about that. If you want to read it, it's down there at the bottom.
Sure,
thinking that the sports park should have recreational activities.
Yeah, Jonathan Percy. I was thinking that the sports park should have recreational activities like bungee jumping, rock climbing, and zip lining for a high-flying experience. Great stuff. There are play areas now with all of those things, and they can be designed into the project. They can be part of the play experience in the park. No question about it. Thank you, Jonathan, for being there. We talked a lot, there's a big demand for organized sports fields. This is a park that we've got, well, there's a couple different examples here from the city of Coachella. This is Rancho Flores Park. And some of the things that we're going to talk about as we design parks and folks are engaging is, how do you create a sense of arrival? How do you handle the drainage? How do you create places for spectators? Where is the lighting? How do we make them flexible? Where do teams organize themselves? How many of different types and sizes of fields do we need? That's all part of the conversation that's to come. So if we keep moving forward, and then I see another comment from Sarek Nieto, and he's asking about an amphitheater to hold concerts for other events. I will get to that. We also had we had a demand for pickleball, tennis, and basketball. So again, these are slides that show various images, and you guys will be able to rate those images. Exercise stations, again, these are different ways you can do exercise stations, and we'll talk through the pluses and minuses of clustered stations versus individual stations. Next slide. And I have a comment from Michael Rosenkrantz. He said, all needs to be adaptive. We design parks that are accessible and adaptive and provide as many experiences as possible for all different abilities. Just so you know, that's just part of our culture. Picnic areas, big high priority on picnic areas, whether they be group picnic areas or individual areas on a path. Various types of walking paths, promenades, ways in which we connect the park from one element to the other, but create a unified experience. Super important. Next. And then shade. We talked about shade, various kinds of shade structures with a whole list of different attributes, and costs are part of this process. So you'll see these two-tiered multi-shaded facilities. You'll see metal roofs. You'll see single shade sails. Water play. We're in the process of renovating about 5 water play elements today in the city of Indio. We want to bring more water play into these parks. The next slide. We go to the next slide. Okay, and then we have benches, and we have opportunities that we can make bicycle racks art and benches art. And these are, again, just different ideas that we're going to place. We're going to have art in the park. How do we do art in the park? Well, we get artists, we get the Art in Public Places program together, and we start identifying those locations. The slide down at the bottom in the middle came from Coachella, and we're currently going to place that on Dr. Carrion Park. That's the one with the multicolored kind of teepee structure there. Thanks. Next. And again, an art walk. What about this? This is La Quinta's Art Festival. Why don't we just create opportunities for artists to display their art and put it out there as both permanent art, and maybe another arts festival or an art affair can happen on the park. Next. Event lawns for all kinds of different activities. Next. car shows, Jenga, and we get into dog parks, dog park friendly stuff. There's our own Indio park in the center there. Station, I think Michael have to jump in on that one. I can't remember the number. And then there was a big demand, a lot of discussion. Station
87.
87. It was not Station 87 when we designed that project. It was something else. We called it Indio Golf Center Parkway Dog Park, I think is what we called it. There's been a lot of discussion about indoor recreation facilities and what can we do with indoor recreation facilities. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to potentially locate one in the future. So we'll move on to the next slide and we'll be talking some more. Brooke, I hope you're picking up some of these comments. I'm not getting to it. We'll come back to them. There's a skate park component that's been identified and could be part of this project. And lastly, I want to speak to both the skate park and the amphitheater. This park is a park for sports activities. And then there's been some comments about putting an amphitheater out there. I want those folks to know that an amphitheater has already been master planned in Miles Avenue Park. So it's kind of a balance between how many amphitheaters can a city really support and what's the best location. So we'll talk more through that with Mike Edgar and some of the other folks in the city. I have Mike Rosenkrantz. It would be great to have a large blacktop area for playing wheelchair, football, and softball. Point well taken. We'll keep that in mind. Okay, so the next slide. All right, so you folks just stay on that one. So so everyone understands, this isn't a phase, this isn't design. This is really a bubble diagram to show you various areas and explain the process that we go from here. The red dashed line on the outside is our park boundary. And with an $8.5 million budget, parks of this nature are generally costing about $600,000 an acre. So we need to focus phase one on what do we do with approximately 14 acres of land and hit those elements that have been identified as the most important elements for the community. So I just wanted to give you an idea of area. And this exhibit shows in light green the amount of area for about 17 acres of field. So that's 17 acres of just sports field area. Now, as I mentioned, it's only about a 14-acre budget. So we're going to be pushing and pulling all of this to get to where we need to for the entire master plan and then for the phase one grant that we want to go after. So within this exhibit, Brooks clicked through a couple of different things. This is kind of the overall organization of what could be. It's sort of our starting point. So when we sit down next time, we're going to take actual cutouts, and there's another slide, and we're going to cut them out, and we're going to sit down with you, and we're going to put together how this puzzle should fit based on what your needs are. I think the next slide kind of indicates, okay, so that's what a 100,000 square foot indoor recreational facility looks like. And that would take a full-size soccer field. So yeah, so Brooke, go to the next slide. This kind of shows us the cutouts and how they would be fitting into these areas. So we want you guys to take these cutouts and start moving them around and working with us on how this could best be organized. I show parking the way it's been shown on the plan. I show parking adjacent to Avenue 44. And in sports field design and park design, we try to stretch that parking out so you don't get a sea of asphalt. Creates a little bit more accessibility to the park. So we want to give you guys some clues and hints and use our expertise to guide the process, but we don't want to necessarily tell you this is the way it should be done, because I think everybody has something important to say. So next, so this is the last slide. It would be we move on to the question and answer period, I think, from here. And we could go back if anybody wants to Facebook question or go back to something. We're happy to do that. So if we go to the final slide, Brooke, that's the questions or comments. If anybody has any questions or comments, please provide input right now as you're sitting there. There we go.
All right, I'm going to bring everyone back into the conversation right now because we do have a lot of comments. Okay. I might remove myself here too so that so that Chris's head is not covered here. Maybe I can just switch us a little bit. There you go. Nobody needs to see me right now.
I'd rather see yours.
So we've got a lot of comments. And again, as Chris mentioned, if you give me a little bit of notice, I would be happy to bring up some of those slides. And Chris, if you want to call for them too, we can go back through and we can look at
Okay.
any of those slides. So we did get a lot of comments. Maybe let's start at the top. And I'm going to throw the comment up there. And then Mike, Jose, Chris, whoever maybe wants to speak to it, go ahead. We can kind of work through it. And then see what people have to say, and then ask the questions of, what you want to hear from the community. So we heard from Jonathan Percy, who wanted to know about recreational activities. And how much of that, Mike, could we accommodate?
How much, what is it?
How much of these activities like bungee jumping, rock climbing, zip lining, that sounds amazing. How much can we accommodate in something like this, Mike?
It just depends on our budget and how the other pieces fit. But it would be fun to have those items in the park.
Yeah, it sure would. It sure would. Sarek was talking about the amphitheater, which for those folks who weren't here with us throughout the whole meeting, and we're up to more than 41 people who are watching right now live on our various platforms. Maybe we can go through the amphitheater again about why that may not necessarily be part of this plan.
That's slide 28.
Okay, let me find that while you speak a little bit.
What I spoke to was we have a master plan on Miles Avenue Park that incorporates an amphitheater, and it's shown on that master plan. And this community park, or this sports park, while it may not have a performance level amphitheater, it certainly could be a consideration for maybe a event lawn type place with a platform and a shade cover for people. If you go to the slide, you'll see what we're talking about. We helped design, and we're the lead consultants for the amphitheater at Rancho Mirage Community Park, which is an incredible venue on the left there that was designed for outdoor performances and concerts and movies in the park. There's a little bit of a more scaled down version we didn't design on the right side. And we currently created a venue platform for the Silver Rock venue site in La Quinta that is kind of even more scaled down with terrace seating and a place to sit. So I would just say that it's going to be one of those elements that we have to think about where and how and what kind of programming we want to do on it. And the city can take that community input and decide on what phasing they wanted to incorporate it, whether it's in this park or it's in another park. I hope that answers your question. It's kind of a gray area. We definitely see the need and the want for something like that. I see all needs to be adaptive come up again from Michael. Every crowd should be able to play. See Sassafras player in Raleigh, North Carolina. Okay. Duly noted.
Mike, I'm curious too, because you have seen a lot of these parks come to fruition over the years. How much do you lean on some of these suggestions or get inspired by play areas that you have seen work in other parts of the country? Certainly, you're trying to be responsive to the needs of the people who live here in our community, which are going to be different in terms of climate and accessibility. But have you seen some great parks in other places that you say, these are elements that I wish we could have here?
Mostly what we have our play toy suppliers, and they're coming up with new ways for kids to enjoy themselves. And so if we can incorporate some of the newer ideas, and they are adaptive and everybody can play, and they're much more exciting than the play toys that we've had in the past. There's more ways to play, different ways to play.
Yeah, can I add to that? Yeah, there's a lot of play companies that produce a lot of equipment now that even there's swings where grandma and the child can be on. There's now adaptive ramps that a wheelchair child can come in and experience every component throughout the play structure from one end to the other. There's no need to transfer them. So there are a lot of companies out there that provide this type of adaptive equipment, and we'll surely look into it.
Yeah, those are great comments. In fact, we're getting some more in right now. So let me move through this a little bit. I think Michael also had a question about a large blacktopped area for playing wheelchair football and softball. This is a comment that we did not get through before, and this is from Ramon Gonzalez about a pool like at the Palm Desert Civic Center.
I think I'll let Mike answer that one.
The tough one goes to Mike.
Well, we've got Polypool, and the rec district is in the middle of trying to renovate that pool. So while it's not Olympic, it's got a lot of play value.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike, from your experience, aren't pools a revenue drain for the most part for the city? So they're really hard to make a lot of. Is that not true, or is that true?
Yes, maintenance is very expensive on the pools, and they usually do not pay for themselves.
It would seem to me with the desire for like bungee jumping and potentially a pool, that a public-private partnership for some of these elements might eventually be the solution, like we're seeing down valley.
We'd have to enter into some partnership to be able to afford that.
Okay.
So we also have a comment from Rafael Vargas. Indoor recreation would be great because of the summer heat. Let me go ahead and try and find that as well while you guys talk.
Yeah, that was slide 3 or 4. So Rafael, yeah, we understand that, and we've had a fairly lengthy conversation about it, and are looking at prototypical indoor facilities and trying to create a place for them. Yeah, going back to that, right? The like I mentioned earlier, it's 100,000 square foot footprint just to put one soccer field under roof, and public funding doesn't typically cover these types of facilities. It's a joint public-private partnership, and there's grants, and there's a lot of work to get to those. It's not saying that it won't get done, but it's just that's the reality. And we want to see it there. We've got a potential place to show it right there, that pink square. And that's just to give you an idea of what the space is. It may not end up at the end of that promenade. It may end up somewhere else, but it gives you an idea of what 100,000 square feet is. The research we've done in other locations with different population sizes than Indio have them as a minimum as 100,000 square feet, and they go up to much, much more in bigger metropolitan areas.
Elizabeth has a comment about horseshoe pits.
What a great idea. What a great idea. You know, I don't think there's anybody who wrote that into any of the survey, but why not? We're going to have picnic areas.
Another comment from Michael about collaborating with Desert Rec District. So I think that was one of the things that you guys were referring to as some sort of partnership. In fact, I think that is what Palm Desert does with their pool.
Mike could probably answer the question about and know the details of Desert Rec District.
Yeah, that's something that we could talk about. They have the Polypool in Indio, and they also have a rec center on Clinton. So they're busy in the city, and we could easily work with them.
Thanks. Okay. Same note of walking paths. Why not implement a walking path surrounding a pond, much like the Civic Center? It'll be the first in the city. That's a great idea. Why not?
So thanks, Ramon, for sharing that one.
Yeah.
Rafael is talking about this park, and Mike, maybe you can speak to this, because we have received some comments from people on Facebook previously about, yeah, we'd love to see a park here. I thought we were supposed to have a park here long ago. You know, what's up with that? So what is up with that?
Well, the recession hit, and we could not fund the construction of the park at the time. But we have the property still, and we can develop it now.
Another suggestion from Eric about potential small vendor artist locations and events. And we did hit on that a bit, Chris.
Yes. We have art in the park and a tent potentially, and those were identified in the survey results, and an art walk of some sort. And then we showed images of some of the events that took place at La Quinta, and we just finished designing an entire venue site for them for that specific purpose. So those will definitely be part of the master plan. There you go, Eric. There's some images of what we're hoping to see eventually as a master plan element within the project. And Eric's very excited for the project. Great. And then will Rotary get involved? I don't know. I'm not a Rotary guy, but I think they might. And we have pools. We need soccer, pickleball, tennis, basketball, and outdoor gyms. Yeah, so soccer, pickleball, tennis, basketball, they were all on the 10 most desired list, and they will be addressed in the master plan.
Let's bring up that list again for those folks who were not in on the very beginning here, so that people can see, based on our first community meeting, what was most desired by the people, just showing our responsiveness. And Mike, you and I have talked a bit about why it's so important to do meetings like this and to get people involved in terms of funding.
How we get points, how we be the most competitive we can be, is to show community involvement and show that our design involves and uses the community input. We have the amenities that are most wanted.
We're really getting so many comments right now, and I want to make sure that we get some of them. So let me just buzz through a few here, and then we can have a conversation and all sort of jump in a little bit. We love public parks that have musical equipment and water features. Shane's Inspiration has a beautiful adaptive park in Griffith Park with a track for kids to bring out their tricycles and scooters with road signs. It is the cutest. I love those little amenities, those little extras that make places special, that you remember and you come home and you tell, your loved ones, I saw this really neat thing. Tanya, looking completion timeframes for this project. Well, it's all about getting the money, right, Mike?
It is. And then if we do happen to get the grant, and then we've got a 2-year timeline.
All right, so that's good, because can we go over again what the price tag is on something like this?
I'd say, well, you have to look at park development. Generally starts at about $500,000 to $600,000 an acre. The last 3 we've completed are coming in those kinds of numbers, and it really depends on infrastructure needs. And this is a site that wouldn't be as expensive as one that's just vacant land with no improvements around it. The project, so if we did the math on 39 acres, you can see it's a significant number. It's a significant number of dollars. Our first phase, I mentioned earlier, should be about 14 to 15 acres of development of the 39 if we get $8.5 million. And then the city can figure out other means and methods to add to that pot. But the 8.5 would be a great start to get the most desired and most needed things in place.
A question from Shane Brown about plans for hiking trails within the park, and that was on the list, wasn't it?
Yeah, if you click through that slide that's there, you will see various elements pop through that we will, it kind of layers that one, the park plan that you were on, kind of shows a trail system. There's DG, there's hiking, there's a promenade. So yeah, zoom up a little bit, Brooke. There's a big purple line for kind of a promenade idea, and then there's a DG trail that goes around the back of the sports fields and connects things. So there's definitely plenty of opportunity for trails that connect all these elements. And there'd be exercise components along them.
Michael is curious about basketball courts in the indoor rec facility, but I think we showed in that next slide here what the blueprint of an indoor rec facility might look like. So it would take up a considerable amount of space in a blueprint like this.
Right.
Sarek asking, is the amphitheater already within the budget for the new Miles Park? Mike?
Right now, we don't have the money for it. What we were trying to do is get a grant for Miles Avenue Park, but we did not get the grant. And the amphitheater was part of that.
So no right now, but try again, right?
Yes, we will keep trying.
Shane, will there be efforts to boost cellular activity in the park area? Chris, you talked about that and it's Wi-Fi and connectivity, and it's where it was on the list.
It was number 10 as one of the most desired elements to have better Wi-Fi. Somebody must be living close by who's part of this committee of folks, the community, because there must not be very good Wi-Fi access there. We would definitely recommend that for a number of reasons. Obviously, when you build a park, the connectivity needs to be important for a lot of things that come up, access, etc. So it's on the list.
I love this. We have still about 40 people who are watching live, that we are up to about close to 50 at one point too. So Jonathan is asking about a special event center for community gatherings and events. That's something that was on there. We want to plant a lot of trees. Mike, I know that you and Paul Stama would love to see that too.
Yes, we love trees. The shade is great. They're beautiful. Lots of trees.
That's cheap shade. That's cheap shade.
Elizabeth wants to know if the list is available for sharing. Is that something, Chris, that we can put on that Indio Sports Park page?
I don't see why not. Yeah,
so for those folks like Elizabeth who are interested in learning more about all of these things, we hope that you do use that Facebook page. If you're watching on the city page, know that we are also streaming live on this Indio Sports Park page. It's scrolling at the bottom. And we would love for you to continue submitting your comments there. Direct people to that page. It's a repository for all of these things that we're talking about right now. And Mike is also at the helm of this Indio Sports Park email address too. So if you want to email him directly, you can do that. Maybe I wasn't supposed to pull up the curtain or there to show that, yep, it's Mike behind the scenes there, and also Chris and Jose. But yes, so we are all looking at those emails as well and taking these things into consideration. So Angel wants to know, and this is a pretty good question. This is not, I'm not going to call this a loaded question, but it's a fair one. So why not try some of these ideas on parks and facilities that we have now before spending money and building something new? Can I start with the fact that the city does own this land? So is that part of it, Mike?
Yes, we've got a big piece of property here that we can do a lot with. We are short of sports fields, so it's the perfect spot.
And we certainly want to continue and upgrade the facilities that we have now, but we also want to make play and recreation accessible to people all over, and not necessarily duplication of effort, but making sure that we have the ability to put everything that we want somewhere. Heather is asking about splash pads. Mike, I ask you all the time about splash pads, and you are so sweet to not correct me in the open and call them water play areas.
Yeah, we have 5 now that we're getting in working order, and you can never have too many. So that's something we'd like to see in the new park too.
There you go.
Yes. A lot of comments here. horseshoe pits, volleyball nets with sand, volleyball circles, skate parks. My kids don't skate, but I see so many kids on skateboards, and they deserve a space. Again, offering some information about inspiration, and the youth make up the biggest population, should be included in this conversation. Young ones do not do Facebook, which is why we are also advertising this on Instagram. And we have a next meeting coming up. So we don't want to cut this one short, but should we talk about the next meeting and the process? Because Memo is also asking about the application for the grant period, when it is supposed to be submitted.
Absolutely.
December 14th is when we have to have the application in.
But in the meantime, we do have a number of different public meetings planned.
Yeah, we do. So our next meeting is October 17th. It's on a Saturday. It's at 9 o'clock in the morning on the park site. And we're going to work on that. We're going to have a working meeting there. And then our following that on October 29th at 7 p.m., we'll have another meeting like this, virtual. And then our final will be an on-site meeting at 9 a.m. on November 7th. And that'll be sort of the culmination of all of our efforts to review prior to submitting for the grant. And the address is shown now as to where we'll be meeting.
So addressing as well the ways that we're trying to reach out. It's not just here on Facebook. We're actually streaming live on the city's YouTube page as well. And we have been advertising these meetings on Instagram, also on Twitter. And we have, and I was trying to pull it into this so that we could show everyone, but there's a little bit of a file and a technical issue that I'm working through right now. But we have some interns at Indio High School with the Impact program. So I'm trying to think who was specifically talking about that. Whoever was mentioning about making sure that that the young people are included in this conversation. So yeah, so we have some kids from Indio High School that are helping me out, and they have actually been canvassing their friends and asking them what they would like to see, and are in the process of creating a video. So by the next time that we have one of these virtual events, we will be able to show that video that they have created. And we're also pushing it out on all of our various social media platforms. So, and I know it doesn't help since the lobby is closed to visitors, but we're also having it run in the lobby here at City Hall. So I think we're doing our best in this COVID environment, but if you have additional ways that you would like to help outreach, certainly send them our way. Send them to that email address. Sorry, Mike, and Mike can pass it on to me, and we'll work on this together, to me and Chris, and we'll figure out other ways of pushing out that information and getting input. But I love that. We're definitely trying to get the youth involved, and by getting them invested in asking other people what they'd like to see, we hope that we're doing that too. We have more comments in. From Jesse Martinez, youth football field. Have we gotten that one? I think, Jose, I'm going to uncover you.
That's okay.
Let me see if I can find you here. Here you go. Because you were nodding real big at that.
Yes. No, we do have a youth football field set up, and hopefully we can get the lights on there, and we'll be able to have some really good events in the evenings for the young kids and the Pee Wee and Pop Warner teams.
Meeting on site sounds good. Flyers for online schools. So that's certainly something that we can do for our next in-person meeting, is push out through Peach Jar, since I know that so many people are checking their email and looking at their email all the time. Is it okay if we don't live in India but live in the Valley? Will the upcoming meetings be repetitive, or does it make sense to participate in future meetings? That's such a good question, because I was curious about that too. And Chris, you were explaining actually how these meetings are progressing.
Right. So for those who can't be there, we have one more virtual meeting after this on the date I gave earlier, and that is October 29th. So at that meeting, we'll have taken the on-site workshop input, and we'll have created a conceptual master plan that has a lot more detail than the bubble diagrams we've shown you. And it'll get a little bit drilled down into what can we do with $8.5 million. It'll be the beginning of kind of refining to a final master plan rendering. But this is the diagrammatic representation of space and areas representative of the hierarchy of the desired elements in the project. And from here, we drill down into more detail.
I think we should address this one because it's come up once or twice, which is safety at the park. And I think that what people are speaking to there is just, making sure that it's welcoming to all who want to use it.
And I think Jose is probably a good answer to this one.
Yeah, you know what? During the time of we were putting together the bubble diagram, I wanted to make sure that we had all the activities close to the street so law enforcement can drive by. If you can zoom in a little bit, Brooke, you can see that the skate park, the play areas are all up against Market Street, and leaving it open so the law enforcement can drive through. We also have a drive-through parking lot there that connects Avenue 44 and Market also. So there's plenty of access for law enforcement to patrol the area and make it a safe, welcoming park for the community.
Am I moving it in the right direction to follow?
Yes, you got it. You got it perfect.
This is so cool. I appreciate how much people are really getting involved in this conversation right now too. Still about 36 people who are taking part in this. So we want to thank everyone as well who are taking part. And because we have been going on now for almost an hour too, you want to run that drone video again one more time, Chris, so that people can see that was so neat. And let's see if I can not mess this up and we can run it again here. So you guys talk for just a second. Let me cue it up.
Absolutely. It's really great to get a lot of input in the business that we're in, the design profession. There are those who think that they have all the answers, and there's those who really recognize that, you can learn something from everyone, and everybody's important. Everybody's input's important. And that's kind of our culture and what we try to do with our company and the people that are involved. And we try to extend that out to the community. So we're just really glad to see that we had over 50 people on this call. And it's a really good turnout. And we just thank the city for having all this great technology to be able to do it. So for those who are still on, and maybe they missed this is another little piece of technology we take advantage of. It's a drone flight over the project site.
Every time I move it, it stops it. Sorry, here we go.
Yeah, so now you're looking right down 44th, kind of crossing over, looking south. And then swinging back to the east side of the project, and then a big flyover from east to west, where you've got the church and a couple of apartment buildings. The commercial's closer on Jackson. So, yeah, that's okay. There's the existing apartment properties. And you see kind of where the light sand is versus the dark kind of weeds on the left. That's our property. The lighter sand on the left side is someone else's property. Connections within a mile, CV Link, Jackson Park, the freeway, but not Fantasy Springs. That's a little bit further away. Gives you an idea what's going on downtown. And Miles Avenue is within that mile radius as well. That's great. As you look at the city park plans, and in this area, there's probably 3 other parks that are all within a mile, a little bit over a mile. And the big picture thinking is you could almost ride your bike to have different experiences at each one of these parks in one day. So every one of the parks provides something for the community to plug into. And this one particularly is going to focus much more on the sports needs and the other elements that have been identified as priorities. How about that, Marcus?
So we got a number of comments too, even while this was playing here. Someone was asking about basketball, so that's definitely on the list, and we see that here on the list, although it did not make the top 10 most desired in our first round.
Yeah, but basketball and tennis and pickleball, they all kind of organize themselves in a park fairly close to each other, and basketball is not a high cost element, and it would probably be considered as part of this project.
Definitely.
Without really having a whole lot of discussion about it. It's definitely something we want to talk about.
Jesse thinks something is awesome. I hope he means what we're doing in this way to get feedback, but it could also be that terrific drone video, or just even that we're working on this. So thanks, Jesse, for participating. This is one, it's actually come to me through Instagram before, and maybe this would be the perfect project to work on it for, which is the concept of a little free library around the park.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and that's a real easy one too.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Michael is saying something is a great comment. So thank you for sticking with us for so long throughout this. I hope that we're providing you with new and interesting information. Possible for local businesses to serve as maintenance sponsors of a pool for competitive swimming. So this is something that we talked about kind of at the beginning. Mike, you want to address this one?
Yeah, that's an opportunity that we could pursue. Because
yeah, but I mean, regardless of a pool, it's a public-private partnership that we could utilize for something, right?
yes, yeah, there's lots of amenities that we'd like to have in the park that if we went into partnership, it would make it possible.
Also a question about a possible community garden. So I think we want to these are all ideas, and that how they're ranked in terms of priority if funding comes in, that would dictate what gets built and what doesn't and how it's managed, right? So all of that is built into the cost. It's kind of a question for you all.
Well, yeah. Well, the community garden is, I mean, it can be funded through sponsors, and obviously the community has a place to have a small plot and grow vegetables and congregate with everybody there. And it did make the plan. It was shown on the master plan right near the on the west end. If you want to zoom in there, Brooke, you can see it.
Let me find that one here. We kind of went through these conceptual designs pretty quick. So as we're kind of wrapping things up here, maybe you could kind of go through it again. And the reason, by the way, for this next meeting at the River of Life Church is because it is right around here.
Yeah. Yep. No, actually one more down.
Here?
I'm sorry, over to the right. It's actually where that yellow line is, I believe, right there. Yeah.
So there's open spaces for people to do this so that we can do this outdoors and actually hold an in-person meeting with proper social distancing, because that was something that we found was important. And I should have brought those photos in from our last meeting, but they're part of the video that our kids from Indio High School made, where you can see that there was a considerable number of people who showed up, and everyone was very spread out. We were outside and everyone was wearing masks. But I think that it was good to see something tangible, since we've been doing so many of these virtual meetings.
Yeah, Jose, why don't you let Jose kind of walk through the various components of the park real quick?
You bet.
Yeah.
Which slide would you like to see here, Chris?
This one's fine, Brooke. Yeah, I'm going to start from left to right. So right away, right along Market Street. We're going to have parking and access that connects both streets. We'll have a skate park right to the left of that parking lot. Right above it, we'll have tennis courts and pickleball. The dots that you see running across the whole park from one end to the other, the magenta dots, that's a promenade that could be 12 feet wide, allowing for people to walk. And then that'll connect you to the square dots, which will be a DG trail around the backside of the perimeter of the park. You'll be able to access the community garden that's right next to the dog park. The dog park will straddle this boundary here because it's such a unique little area. We can provide a dog park for the smaller dogs and the bigger dogs. Along the street here, a market, you'll be able to see the play areas, which could be an inclusive play structure, swings, a splash pad. We'll work out the details, but that'll be located right here in the purple area. And as we're going right here where the main parking is, the big asterisk here would become a plaza or some kind of arrival element to show that you're here at Indio Sports Park. The green area here, we want to reserve it for more like a food truck event, art show, or art display, or even some pop-up food vending opportunities here, or vendors during a large soccer tournament or baseball tournament. I know that's big in those type of leagues where you have little leagues for soccer and football and baseball, where vendors come out. So there's a lawn area there for that. And then the asterisks here that you see, the orange ones, those will be fitness stations that'll follow the promenade. The blue asterisks will be shade structures. We'll try to locate them in areas, strategic areas for people to picnic. We'll have a large group one on this end, or during the workshop that we have, we're going to bring a lot of these elements and cutouts so you can tell us where you would like to see the large group shade structures. And obviously the large green area, that's our organized sports area that's going to be composed of soccer, baseball, and football. And then finally, the indoor recreation facility, it's 100,000 square feet. It'll be able to house a high school sized soccer field, or it could be broken up into multiple areas for practice during the hot season. And that kind of concludes where all the elements and that we've provided here based on the assessment survey.
Good. I see a comment about a bike path as well. I think we discussed, I know we discussed the surrounding bike paths that are on the streets.
Yes.
Within the park itself, Jose and I have talked about a kind of a multi-use trail. The promenade is kind of an opportunity for that, or something separate. Bikes and people are not a good combination in a park. People get run over. So we have to look at the connection of the bike trails that are already planned to get us to the park, and then figure out a way to manage bicycles in the park.
Correct.
So that's kind of where we're at this point.
There was also a comment here about edible garden with citrus trees, strawberries, things that grow locally. Erin mentioning dog park, additionally to the two that are in Indio already. And I think that there was another comment about community care. So as we kind of wind things down, we've been going almost an hour right now. I think if anyone wants to just sort of give closing comments, I'll put the information up here again about our next meeting, which is next Saturday, and that Facebook page. We're going to go ahead and get those. We're going to go ahead and get those needs assessments up there on our Facebook page so that people can see sort of what was most desired. But I mean, we're continuing to get comments from people even now. And we appreciate this ability to take things to the next level. Chris, you want to kind of close this out?
Well, again, I just want to, yeah. So I just want to say thank you for everyone who's participating. Thanks for the city to give us the opportunity to be part of the process. It's exciting to bring a community together in a time when things aren't being pulled together. We're pulling together on something. We have a vision, and hopefully we can help each other get to a solution. And if the state's willing and they think that we've done a great job, and we're going to get $8.5 million or some part of that. So that's our goal, is to help make this a reality. And thank you guys, and we'll look for you at the next meeting.
Good job.
Mike, do you want to mention anything? This is really something that you're shepherding here at the city level. And what do you hope comes of all of this, other than getting the funding to move forward?
It'd be nice to have something happen with this property, something that the community can use. And like Brooke has mentioned, if you have any more comments, send it to the email address that's shown on the bottom there. We're happy to have more comments.
Jose?
Well, I got to tell you that, like Chris said, we're going through some hard times, and we're trying to plan something that hopefully in the future will bring the community there in Indio together after this whole pandemic. So looking forward to working on getting it built as soon as we get the money for it.
Yeah, that would be great. So thank you to everyone who's taken part still, nearly 30 people who are hanging in there throughout this whole process. So terrific community engagement. Thank you for all of your ideas on continuing how to reach out to other people and get the youth involved in these sorts of things. Our next meeting is an in-person meeting at the River of Life Church on Avenue 44, which is kind of up here. I think we discovered it was kind of up here. So it's right on the perimeter of the sports park. We hope to see you there. Outside, masks required, social distancing also enforced. And then we'll have another virtual meeting after that too. So thanks to everyone. I'm going to go ahead and end the broadcast right now. We're taking a little bit over, but we had so many comments, including ones that are still coming in. And we think that this is a terrific way that not only we are giving back to Indio, but that we can really give back to the entire Coachella Valley and be inclusive and make this a destination for people really throughout Southern California. So have a terrific night, everyone. Good night, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Great. Good night.